Now, a News 8 exclusive, an attorney and friend of Fotis Dulos, who testified at the Michelle Troconis trial, sat down with me to talk about the case, the trial, and Dulos and Troconis. Tell us how you first met Fotis Dulos.
He was a ski instructor, and one of my children was at that ski program, and he was one of the coaches.
At sundown?
Yes, so we got to know him that way.
And how did you meet Michelle Troconis?
Right around the same time. She was active in the ski community, and her daughter was an exceptional skier, so our children got to know each other through that.
And how did you reach the point where you were hired by Fotis Dulos?
Sure. Sometime in maybe January of 2019, Michelle indicated to me that Fotis needed some help with some custody matters in litigation. He had a couple of lawyers, and for whatever reason, he was not with them anymore, and asked if I could help out. So I got involved, as I testified to, on a very limited basis, which was custody.
So you were closer to Michelle than Fotis, would you say?
I would say Michelle introduced us, and then I got close essentially to both of them over time.
Do you believe that he could be capable of murder?
Well, he's a former client. I don't mean to be cagey, but as a former client, I wouldn't want to say anything other than to say that the evidence that the state's put together is very thorough, and it's fairly compelling. So there is certainly some evidence that would lead to a conclusion of that.
And what do you think about the evidence they presented against Michelle Troconis?
I think that they've overcharged Michelle. I think that the murder charge really doesn't have really anything behind it. It might have been used as leverage to maybe get her to talk later on or to plead to a different count. So as far as conspiracy, I think that's an overcharge. The other counts may or may not have more weight.
There are a lot of people who wrestle with that because here they are going down a street that they had really not visited before. It's known for crime, with all due respect to that neighborhood. It's on the news for that. And here they are going from trash barrel to trash barrel, disposing of stuff. Do you not think she would ask any questions as to, hey, what are we doing here?
Well, I think she said that. In her video interview, she did say at some point, I asked what we're doing, and he said, don't worry about it. But what's an important piece of information to me, and I'm not here as her advocate, I'm just here as an observer, but what's an important piece of information to me is that she didn't throw anything out.
And when you spoke to her, what language did you speak to her?
I did speak to her in English.
Do you speak Spanish at all?
I do not.
You do not. And was it difficult to understand her, and was she having difficulty understanding you at all?
She did at times, especially with more complicated words, legal issues. I can't really think of a ton right now, but I can think that there were times when she would say, how do you say that? What does that mean? Or she'd look at Fotis and she'd say, what does that mean? And then he would break it down for her. When
you were in the courtroom testifying, what was the reaction of the jurors? Did you see them at all, and did they seem interested?
They seemed interested, and I do want to say this. They were very attentive, and I think they looked a little bit tired, because they had been there for about 28 days of evidence. They were attentive, they were interested, and also I think both sides of the lawyers did an amazing job putting together a very, very complex case.
You're an attorney. As you looked at those jurors' faces, did you get a sense of how they're going to...
You can't. I just tried a case about 2 weeks before this, and I didn't have a sense until they came in, so I did not get a sense at all.
Now, much of what I asked of Attorney Rose, he could not answer because of attorney-client privilege, which continues even though his client is dead. And we invite you to stay with News 8. We'll have continuing live coverage of the Troconis trial tomorrow. We'll be streaming those closing arguments, and we'll have live coverage as soon as that verdict comes in.